Hello, and welcome to Our Power is Within, a weekly podcast that I hope will inspire you to take your power back and discover beautiful sources of self-healing that resonate with your heart. I'm your host, Chas Smith. Okay. So today, I do want to make mention that it would mean the world to me if you would consider taking a moment of your time and scrolling down on Apple Podcasts to give me a 5-star rating if I have earned it. And take a moment to leave a quick review if you've been following along and any messages shared on this show have resonated with you or inspired you in any way. Your support does help me to make sure that I can spread this message and inspire as many beautiful healing souls as possible. Another way to support the show is by sharing an episode with a friend or on your social media. And I thank you so very much. Now, let's talk weekly challenge. How is non-dominant hand eating or teeth brushing going for you? Are you getting the hang of it? Does it still feel super weird? Have you even done it yet? No right or wrong, just checking in. And I was thinking that this week we'd actually change it up a little bit. And when I say change it up, we're going to change something up in our lives, but we're still focusing on neuroplasticity. So what is one thing that you could change up in your usual routine for a week? Some ideas that I have are drive a different route to work or to the store every day. Or you could do something a little different in your house. Like if you are really particular about how you like something to be done or the order that you do things, change it up. It might feel really weird and completely out of sorts at first, but that is the whole point. You will keep those neural pathways on their toes. So one thing that I actually did initially, this might make some of you go, I could never do that. I felt the same way, trust me. So I was a big time bed maker. Like it was so important to me, you guys. I had to make the bed every day. I couldn't leave my house. If I was running late for work, I would try to talk myself out of making my bed because I was running late and I couldn't do it. I'd be like, no, I'd rather be late for work. So I'd rush back in my room and make my bed. So I thought this was the perfect thing for me to change up. And initially, it felt so strange and so hard, but I was so committed. And so I ended up doing this for months. And then right when I noticed that it was becoming rather easy to not make my bed and I was really less detached to the outcome, I actually decided, this is a great time to start making it again. Because right when my pathway started to adapt, I changed it up again, once again, keeping them on their toes. So make this fun and creative, do something playful and just, be fun, be creative and be playful with it and have fun. Most of all, just have fun with it. Okay. Onward. My guest today is Nicole Pitesa. Nicole is here to share her story and inspire hope. And I truly believe that is exactly what her story does. It inspires hope. Nicole and I chat all about brain wiring and how it changed her life, obviously for the better. Nicole didn't follow any specific brain rewiring program. She did learn different tools and learn about specific programs. And then she took what she learned and she figured out how to incorporate brain retraining tools into her life rather than trying to figure out how to plan her whole life around brain retraining. As a mother of 2 young girls, she learned to include the girls sometimes in creating present moment experiences, or she would do a visualization, even if it was only for a couple minutes at a time. And that's what she could commit to. And Nicole, you will hear in her story, went from being in bed, wheelchair bound and unable to care for her children to living her life, thriving with her family, and now expecting her 3rd child. Yay! Congratulations, Nicole. Remember that what works for her might not work for all of us and the other way around. So it's really important for us each to figure out through our own inner authority what really resonates with us and what works for us individually. You have to ask, what can you personally commit to in a way that doesn't add stress? Some people can commit 1, 2, and even 3 hours a day for their healing. But for other people, they might need a more gentle approach. And you guys, it's all good and it's all right. It's not a right or wrong or a matter of fact when it comes to healing, right? We're such unique individuals with unique histories, stories, and personalities. And so it's fair to say that we can learn from each other and be inspired by each other, hence the whole purpose of this podcast. But I do believe that we still get to honor our own personal truth. And my hope today and most days is that if you're out there and you are anyone like myself, or if you're anyone like Nicole, as you guys will hear more in the interview, and if you've spent your whole life feeling a load of pressure to be better, to be perfect, to do more, to get it all right, to just get right, perfectly right this, right that. Do you see what I'm saying? Then I hope that this episode inspires you to ease up on yourself, to learn to celebrate your wins, and to go at the pace that truly feels right for you, and then to hold your faith. Pressure on ourselves to do everything so perfect, there's this voice in the back of our mind, I know at least in my mind, that says, "Ugh, you're not good enough. You're not doing it right. Oh my gosh, you missed a step. Oh my gosh, you missed a round. Oh my gosh, you didn't do this day. Now you're not going to heal," right? There's that voice. And I honestly think that we have to absolutely pop that pop above all pops, AKA distract yourself and check yourself and make sure that you are reminding yourself that those limiting beliefs are not your truth. There is no space for that voice in our healing. Because as you will hear in Nicole's story, every little bit of commitment that you make to yourself, every single tool you use, every time you show up for yourself, even in the smallest ways, are all progress. And it is all moving you closer to healing. So if you're out there feeling like you're doing it wrong, or you missed something, or you didn't get something done one day, and you feel like you're failing, or you're afraid that you're not getting progress because of not doing something perfect, just stop right now. Take a big, deep belly breath with me. Lift your hands in the air or place them on your heart, whichever feels right in this moment, and say to yourself, "I'm doing amazing. I am right on time. I am exactly where I am meant to be, and I am doing a great fucking job." Yay! How does that feel? Let it sink in. All right, you guys. We're going to go ahead and get into this interview now with Nicole, and we'll go much deeper in all of this good stuff. Hey, Nicole, thank you so much for being on the show today with me.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Of course. So what is going well for you today?
Well, I got my kids to eat a healthy breakfast, which is like always a win for me because my 8-year-old is a really picky eater. And so she's not on any type of rigid diet, but whenever I can get her to eat something without a huge argument is always helpful. And I got some meditation in this morning before the kids woke up and was able to listen to some of my favorite songs while getting ready. So kind of put me in a good headspace for the day.
I love it. I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about, trying to have those moments of meditation or quiet time before the kids wake up, but I can only imagine how valuable that time is.
Not always quiet, so I just have to make do. But when I can get up a little early or after they go to bed is a really good time for me to get meditation and visualizations in and stuff. But I mean, I'll do a lot of stuff just with noise because that's kind of how I have to do it right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to speak to that really quick. I think there's something so powerful in being able to hone your focus, whether it's on your breath in a meditation or even taking yourself through a visualization when there's noise and stimulation and life happening all around you, because that is life, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
life. So if I can get really good at visualizing something or changing my state or meditating or focusing on my breath in silence in this perfect environment that supports it, and that's great, but that does that necessarily transfer to life, which is always happening, you
Exactly,
know?
and I was worried that maybe, I wasn't gonna be able to heal as well because once I did get a lot better, I was a lot more involved with my kids, and I did have to make myself a priority, but some days that just doesn't happen, and so I will be doing a visualization with my kids in the room, and so it might just be something as small as, 1 minute, but every little thing adds up, and so there isn't gonna be a perfect day all the time, and we're not always gonna have, complete silence and time to do it, but it doesn't mean that you can't move forward and still help benefit your body and your brain. So that's kind of what has really helped me is just incorporate it into my daily life and my unique situation, as being a mom and having kids and running around and doing all the things now that I'm so grateful I'm able to do. But it doesn't have to be perfect. And so I think letting go of that has helped me a lot.
Absolutely. So we're talking, so we're kind of talking about, you're mentioning, you say days aren't going to be perfect and being able to fit these things in. For the listeners, can we just kind of touch base on what we're referring to and what exactly you're talking about for your healing so that they're kind of aware of what we're talking about?
Oh, yeah. Are you talking about
And
brain training or what I'm doing
yeah,
specifically?
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just, because we're kind of talking about the things that you're doing to help your healing. And let's just
Yeah.
kind of brush up on what those are for the listeners who might be confused.
Okay. And do you want me to talk about at all what I did do that, you know, like, do you want me to talk about my story or not yet?
Yeah, why don't we start
Okay.
there?
Okay, so I um I'm not going to go in depth about symptoms because I want to be respectful to people who are brain retraining, but about 8 years ago I started having mysterious symptoms, and it took me on a 5-year journey of going to many doctors and specialists and really not getting any answers. And eventually, after 5 years, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and Bartonella and mold illness. And so that sent me down an entirely different path where I was seeing functional medicine doctors, naturopaths. I was traveling the world to do all of these treatments and detoxes and supplements and all the things. And for me, I only got worse, and I actually ended up bedridden and in a wheelchair and completely unable to take care of my kids. They actually had to go and live with family. So it was, a really scary and devastating time. And that went on for 2 years of just declining. Um, and so um, pretty much every single treatment I tried did not work and only made me worse. So this is where I will talk about what did work for me, which is brain retraining, and retraining my limbic system, which is the part of your brain that is basically the seat of our emotions and where trauma is stored, fight or flight mechanism is stored. So I started learning about that, and I started to incorporate it into my daily life. And fast forward now, it's been over a year. I haven't needed a wheelchair, and I fully take care of my kids, and I am actually expecting baby number 3, baby girl number 3. I have 2 girls. So it's just been really miraculous, for me to see how much my body was able to heal just by kind of calming my nervous system down, using different tools, And one of the main things that has helped me has been visualizations where I imagine myself healthy and happy, and I really feel it. So I kind of try to get out of my thinking brain and more into my feelings. And I feel what it would be like for that to be my reality. And so it really helped just calm my body down and kind of slow down all of those stress chemicals so my body was able to heal and utilize um, you know, food and nutrients and things that I think kind of my body had been frozen for a while just because it was in a chronic state of stress. And so every day I do visualizations and I do meditation, which has been really helpful for me. And yeah. And I will say in the beginning, I hated meditation. Like, I really hated it. I thought I wasn't good at it. I had crazy monkey brain. And so now I love it though. My body craves it. Like, I feel, um, I just get the urge to do it. And I think it's because now my body craves that calm and just time for myself. And so, and also the same with the visualizations. I was so resistant and so fearful that it might not work. Um, and my brain just wanted, our brains don't like to change, honestly. And so they want to keep us safe. And my brain thought by keeping me safe was by creating all these symptoms and, you know, keeping me in bed for whatever reason. There can be several different reasons of why our brains do these things. But so I had to just keep moving forward and keep believing that I would heal. And I did.
That's awesome. I mean, you get to a point after so many treatments on, I mean, there's so many things I could say to all this. Um, after you said I got worse and worse the more treatments I did. And it makes so much sense when we start to really learn and understand about our nervous system, our limbic system, and being in a hypervigilant state, topped off with the impact that our emotions and our fear centers have on our body and our well-being, because you get this new treatment idea, you get your hopes up, you get let down again. There's this constant cycle of despair, and that is so stressful and so heavy on the body that it can just almost exasperate things, topped off with the fact that so many of these physical treatments can be very stressful in and of themselves. And if you're putting your body through these treatments when you already have this hypervigilant state, then you're adding, I don't know what you're just adding to it, adding and adding and adding, not
Yes.
allowing time for it to calm down.
Yeah, and I think that it was also a mistake I made, that I wasn't aware of, because I was so new to this whole Lyme disease world, is that I didn't ever probably give anything, a long enough chance before trying something new. So I would do a treatment for
Yeah.
a
You were
while and
so in a hurry.
I'm sorry?
You're suffering, you have all these symptoms,
Yeah.
you're eager, you're in a hurry to, like, okay, this doesn't work, what's next, I gotta find the solution.
Exactly, and I didn't ever give my body a chance to calm down, and I was listening to the experts, but I stopped listening to myself. I was told it was normal to feel worse, but not to the extreme that I had felt. I mean, I got much, much worse, um, and I stopped listening to myself. And we had been talking, before in previous conversations about taking back your own power. And I think taking back my power really, really, really helped me heal, and also trusting myself to know that I could be my own guide and that, yeah, I might use other tools. I mean, even in the future, I can't say that I won't ever try something again. But just being able to quiet my mind and realize that I didn't need to jump and do everything a doctor had told me to do, just because, they knew better, or I thought they knew better, or knew what was best for my body, because in reality, I knew what was best, and I was able to heal myself, just from trusting myself and kind of letting go of all of the rules. And that's just something that I feel like I wish I would have learned sooner, which this was my journey, and, it happened in the order it was supposed to happen. But I think it would have helped me a lot, just believing in myself and helping me let go of all of the fear that, I had to have all of this money to heal. And, um, a big fear for me was, what am I going to do when I run out of money? How am I ever going to heal? How will I keep up these treatments? And comparing myself to so many other people that I saw online who were doing various different things, and then I would think, "Well, that supplement sounds good, I think my body probably needs that too." And I just felt so discouraged and depressed because I thought that because I wasn't doing what other people were doing, my body wouldn't get better, and that just wasn't true.
Mm. Right. You can get to this mindset of, oh, I'm not doing good enough because I'm still not doing this or that, or, I haven't tried this thing yet. It's so interesting. I wonder, did you ever have, so this was a really prevalent thing for me. Before I even knew what brain retraining was, I reached this moment where I thought it shouldn't be this fucking complicated. Like, our body, it's designed, it's like a miracle in and of itself. Like, it shouldn't be, I shouldn't need 2,000 supplements. I shouldn't need $400 worth of supplements every month. I shouldn't need to do all these treatments and all these things. Like, there has to be a different answer, I just thought we must be more resilient than this. Um, and yeah, through some stuff I learned early on, even before brain retraining, it was like, oh my gosh, no, our body literally is brilliantly designed and it wants to heal. We just need to set up an environment for it to heal. And when you're in a hypervigilant or, an impaired limbic system state, it's hard to support that environment because it's perceiving everything outside us, around us, and everything going in us as a threat.
Yes, and I felt so broken by exactly what you're saying, you know, until I came to the realization that it shouldn't be this hard, and it's still
Hmm.
hard for me. I mean, I've had to do a ton of cleanup. I had to, as far as social media, I had to get out of all the Lyme groups, the illness groups. I had to stop following a lot of actually practitioners that preach root cause wellness, because root cause, I mean, oh my goodness, that word for me is just even stressful, because it's just constantly being bombarded with, is it heavy metals or viruses or bacteria or mold or all the things? And then talking about how, oh, if you have methylation problems, you're not going to be able to detox, and you're not going to be able to get well until you do A, B, and C. And that's where I was stuck for so long. And I almost feel, I mean, I'm grateful there are holistic treatments. I know that they do help people, but I just think it's gotten, for me, it just has gotten out of hand with actually making people's bodies just seem like they're completely broken and can't function on their own without, like you said, $400 worth of supplements. And then even that stress of, trying to heal the financial stress that it can have on your family and the burden it can create. That's another whole, you know, scenario where you're in fight or flight. And so it's really looking at what is serving me, what do I really need? Because for me, I fell so far down the rabbit hole and just into the stories of needing to do so many things to get well because I was so scared. And, you know, um, I just hear that happening with so many people, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it's not that it was, you were making a mistake or you did anything wrong. You just were working with what you knew, or, you trusted like experts and people around you, and we work with what we got and what we know. And that's why we're here today. And that's why I have this podcast, is to like hopefully interject and give people hope. And gosh, before they have to spend $100,000 and, however many years and let things get to that point, hopefully they can have, hope and be inspired to see that the answers aren't all around them and outside of them. Not
Exactly.
not not saying it's all the time, but most of the time the answers that we're seeking, and the power is within us.
Yes, and I'm not saying that you might not need some, some help or some tools or some support, and you might have to see some doctors. Like I, I totally think there can be a balance, but I just think a lot of times when we feel, for me, I felt so let down by Western medicine that I found Eastern medicine and a holistic approach that was explaining to me what was happening in my body. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. This is what's happening, and this is why I got so sick. And so I went down that path when really I think sometimes that can be really just extreme as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and generally just as, if not more expensive. It's just another rabbit hole. It's just still focusing outside.
I spent 100,000 in
A
a
hundred
path.
thousand?
Yeah. And that was really hard. I was completely broke.
Yeah, that's even more stress. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we are on a mission to help people not get to that point.
exactly, and I think it's amazing there's so many healing stories. So there's so much hope and so much inspiration from people who have used mind body work to heal, and that's really what inspired me to keep going. And so I'm so glad that you have this podcast just to share this message with people that they can heal and they don't need $100,000 to do it.
No, not at all. Exactly. And so tell me, how did you find brain retraining? How did you first learn about it?
I was just kind of searching around online, and that's when I was still in forums and some people were talking about it. And my background is I have my master's in behavioral science, and I was working as a mental health therapist before I got sick. So I already believed in the power of, you know, working with your brain and knowing that a lot of things can stem from trauma and working through emotions. And so I already believed in it from that aspect, but the brain retraining specifically for chronic illness was new to me. And so I just started researching and, again, joining groups because that's what I did. Um, and so that it just really caught my interest. And so I was iffy about it though. I wasn't sold in the very beginning because I thought I was way too sick for something like this to work for me. Um,
Mm.
yeah, that's how I kind of just fell into it.
But you did it anyways.
Yeah, I did it anyways. I think I was so I just kind of surrendered. I was tired and I finally knew that what I was doing was not working and it was making me worse. So it was like a constant cycle of try this treatment, get so much worse, freak out, think nothing's going to help me, um, try another treatment, talk to another doctor who would tell me, "Oh, this is why this is happening." And I would get hopeful again, and then I would do the treatment and I would just tank even further. And so it was just a constant cycle. And finally, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm absolutely done. And even with diets, like, I was on such restrictive diets and all of that, that I just surrendered and I was like, "I can't do this anymore. I have to try something new." And then I finally did, and even at that point, it was very up and down. It was like believing that limbic system retraining would heal me, and then it was totally not thinking it would, and then trying, taking days off, and then doing it again. And just, it was a journey. It wasn't fast for me. It wasn't just like this miracle where in 1 week I was like healed and, you know, shouting from the rooftops. Like, it took a lot of work. It was hard. Like, I always say it's simple work to understand and do, but it's not easy because you're having to retrain. Like, for me, I'm 35, so I had to retrain a brain that had been stuck in patterns for years, that wasn't serving me. So it was so worth it, but it definitely can be difficult to do. And I think from people that I've coached, they've told me that they'll get discouraged or feel like, they're not doing it correctly or that it's too hard. And I just always want to tell everybody there's no one right way to do it. And that, yes, it is hard because I think that some people think we hear the miracle stories. We've all heard them in testimonials from people who have done treatments and limbic system retraining. And then you start to think, well, it's not working for me because I'm not better in a month, And so I just want to say for me, it definitely wasn't something that just clicked overnight. It took time.
Oh, yeah. We're undoing a lifetime of, like you said, a lifetime of habits, a lifetime
Yeah.
of thought patterns, behavioral patterns. It's like a lifetime. And 95% of our day, we're in autopilot. And we have that 5% consciousness that we get to resource and utilize to make shifts in that autopilot state.
Yes.
And it's not perfect. We're not going to be perfect. Some days, like you were telling me offline, some days you didn't catch the thought. Like some days the mind went, spinning and there was negative thoughts, and you didn't catch them, and that's okay. You still were healing. You didn't have to be perfect and catch every single thought. Always redirect. It's a process. I think we strengthen our ability to be aware, to bring awareness into our space each and every day. I think we strengthen that muscle so that over time, more and more, I'm able to be consciously aware of the things I'm thinking and what's going on in the background so that I can make shifts.
Absolutely. And just always knowing that one step at a time. So one small tweak can add up. So if you find yourself ruminating about something maybe that you can't change right now, for me, that was like I was the queen of rumination, the queen of thinking about everything that stressed me out, the queen of worrying all the time. And I really had to um, work on that. And it was hard for me because it was happening all the time. And I really had to just start asking myself, is this serving me? And if it wasn't, I'd let it go. And I would do emotional release. But I, for the most part, in that moment, I would let it go. This isn't serving me right now. And I would just shift my thoughts onto something else. And it was constant. It was a constant practice for a long time and still is for me. Um,
Absolutely.
Small things like going outside and putting my feet in the grass for 5 minutes, or doing a 1 to 3 minute visualization, even if my kids are in the room, or while I'm driving, doing like a gratitude journal, just quickly writing down 5 things I'm grateful for, or even just thinking about them. Sometimes I'll even do that with my kids. We'll all go around and, say 5 things we're grateful for. Um, and just or changing rooms if I'm finding myself just struggling and I just need to shift, like changing rooms, changing my pattern of my day. So in the morning, if you always do the same things, just change it up, shake it up a little bit. And that can be really helpful. Those are just some simple tricks that have helped me.
Yeah, I love them. I do all the same. I think all those are wonderful, wonderful little tips and tricks that I also, especially at the beginning of brain retraining, I did some rearranging of spaces and yeah, changing up the morning routines and driving a different path when I went to the store or something like that.
Yeah, it's just getting out of
Uh,
autopilot because we're doing so many things we don't even realize that we're just on autopilot. We're not even thinking before we're doing them. So just helping my brain make those small shifts, just it all added up into the end result of, me getting my life back.
right. How so you found you learned about brain retraining, and if I'm correct, you started out with the dynamic neural retraining system, correct?
Um, yeah, I did do DNRS. I never actually had the program. I was telling my therapist about it and she actually bought the programs, which was so awesome. And so I went through the program and I honestly never did that program fully. I did take pieces of it, like the visualizations. Um, but for me, it just wasn't a perfect fit. And again, that was something I had to just accept, because I find that a lot of the people that I worked with, including myself, can be perfectionists, and DNRS tends to be pretty rigid and more like a boot camp. Um, and I do not believe that you need to do anything exact or perfectly to heal. For instance, I have never done retraining for a full hour a day. I have done most of my visualizations laying down, where the DNRS program really um, suggests that you stand. Some people can't stand when they start and then eventually they do stand. But for me, it's just laying down for me is just really calming and getting my nervous system into like a calm state. So that just worked for me. I will stand sometimes, but I would say 90% of the time I'm laying down doing my visualizations. The hand movements, didn't use them. The feet movements, DNRS has a certain pattern that you do while you're starting your visualizations. I never did that either, and I healed. So I think just getting out of the idea that you have to be perfect or you have to follow something exact to heal was really helpful for me.
Right. It's a guideline, it's a guidance,
Yeah.
tools, and so many tools. So you said earlier that within like 12 months, you were no longer in a wheelchair and you became fully independent again. Was that 12 months of focusing on doing the inner work and rewiring that you were finally at that place?
No, it happened faster. It happened faster than 12 months. I was up and down for a while. So, I would have a good day and then I would have a bad day or a bad couple days. But I was still really early on. Um, it was very shifty. So I would flare for a week to 10 days. I mean, in bed, didn't know when the heck I was getting out, and it was really hard and scary. But as I went on through training, it would happen less frequently, so I wouldn't flare for as long. And it was so interesting because when I would first flare, it was always really scary because I knew my flares were long; they were never short. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, how many days am I going to be in bed now?" And then I started thinking, well, what if it's shorter this time? Like maybe I am going to be in bed for 10 days, but maybe I won't. Like maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe my body's going to bounce back. And I started having those thoughts and my flares would get shorter and shorter and shorter to the point now where I don't flare. I will still have, I would say that I'm 80% healed. I still have some symptoms of just pain. That's my only symptom left. All of my neurological debilitating symptoms are gone, but I still do have pain. And so, there might be a day where I have higher pain and then a day where I have lower pain. But in general, I'm pretty steady and I'm able to still do the things that I need to get done and have fun and do all of that. But it was it was like a roller coaster in the beginning, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then finally it slowly just got better, then got a little bit better. And then I would have a few more days where I felt good, or um, I mean, before I could go out for an hour and feel good and then all of a sudden completely change and my body was just not able to function, that stopped happening as well too. So I wasn't having these crazy dips all within the same day. So it was just gradual for me. And yeah, so and I had to really work through, if it felt like a setback or I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting sick again," or "This isn't working." Just always coming back to, my body is healing and just really trying to believe and like drown out all of the normal thoughts of, "No, I really need to go get on this kill protocol," or "This is why this is happening." And I would also just tell myself, for right now, this is what I have to do. So maybe in 6 months, I am gonna have to treat. I mean, this is what I would tell myself before. But for right now, treatment is not working for me. So this is what I'm doing right now. And I would just bring my brain back to it because I had, like I said, I was just totally monkey brain and scared all the time. So I would just have to commit to, this is what I'm doing right now. And I can't tell the future, so I'm just gonna trust that this is what I need right now, and that's kind of how it went for me, just a gradual healing process.
That's awesome. So when you, well, I was going to say one thing about the pain is probably, my guess is that even though you said you're about 80, you'd say you're about 80% if you had to, come up with a
Yeah,
number, and that you still feel pain sometimes. My guess is that the difference between pain now and pain before is that the pain doesn't hold power over you. It doesn't have, it doesn't come with the same story, the problem sometimes when we first start feeling pain, it's not the pain, it's the story that we attach to the pain, the fears that we attach to the pain. And when, I know for me and my experience is, whenever I have a flare up or something show up in my body, it's like, okay, cool. And I just keep living my life because there's no story attached to it anymore. And there's no fear. I know it holds no power over me anymore. There's no like, oh, I don't worry about how long it lasts or how long it might be there. I just like, okay, cool. It's there, notice. And then I move on with my life. And I think that's why it fades.
yes. I just became indifferent to it and kind of surrendered to it because I learned there's no reason to fight it. If I'm having pain and I can't do as much in a day, it I won't deny that sometimes it can absolutely put a damper on your day, and especially when it was really severe. But now I'm just like, okay, have some pain. I'm gonna move on with my day and just do the best I can and surrender the rest. And that's just really helped me because you're right, the story is where I would get really, really, really stuck. Um, and fear and anger and wondering how long it's going to last and why am I having it and when is it going to get better and why me and the victim mentality. And so just letting go of all of that really, really, it created healing. And also I didn't have the pain for as long, where before it would last for a really long time.
Yeah, exactly. And so you still do brain rewiring and other various kind of self-healing tools. You still use tools, you said. You still
Yeah.
meditate and visualize, even if it's a minute here or a minute, couple minutes there and all that.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing process, and something I haven't mentioned yet is essential oils. So I had started brain retraining and I wasn't having very good results. I was still in the resistant phase, and someone had recommended that I try essential oils. My friend, who actually has Lyme as well, said that essential oils can directly impact the limbic system because our sense of smell is so powerful in emotions. Like if you think back to your childhood when maybe your grandmother or your aunt or your parents baked these Christmas cookies or whatever, holiday you might celebrate. And you just get that happy feeling, warm and fuzzy feeling. You can even just imagine the smell, or if you're out and you happen to have that, you smell that, you'll just get these happy feelings. Well, for me, the sense of smell with the essential oils was just so transformational. Like I use them every day now, and I've actually been able to link and anchor my practice with the essential oils. So, for example, if I'm doing a visualization, I'll use an oil, and like my favorite oil to use is Valor right now. It's just one of my favorites, and also peace and calming and stress away and frankincense. But I'll do my visualization, and then later on during the day, if I'm feeling stressed or whatever it is, I get that oil out and I smell it, and it kind of takes me back and shifts my focus just because my brain has already anchored that smell to um, healing and, the happy chemicals and the calming chemicals just being released in my body. So essential oils are huge. I use them also for emotional release. So I do emotional release about one time a week. Um, I'm like a super sensitive person. And so for me, it's just worked best where most days, I will shift my focus when I find myself thinking negatively, but I always pocket it so I don't ever want to suppress emotions. So I'll make a note and say, like a quick note, and just know that on Saturday I'm going to do emotional release. So my brain kind of knows, hey, we're going to deal with this. We're just not dealing with it right now. We're not going to get stuck in this pattern of stress. So I will use like affirmations. And then whenever I meditate, I'll put oils on like my acupuncture points, depending on what I'm going through, or with emotional release, the same thing. Just to help release any of the emotions that are stored in my organs, because emotions can correlate to different parts of your body and they can create trapped energy. And that's like another thing I really learned about was trapped energy and our body's frequency, and how when our frequency dips below a certain point, we are more prone to disease, or like when disease starts. So the oils have a super high frequency in themselves, and then our thoughts can create either a negative or a positive frequency, and the meditations will raise our frequency. So I did a lot of work with that, of just like trying to raise my overall frequency. But like I would say a normal day for me would be, before I even get out of bed, I do a visualization, and that could be anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes, just depending how the day is going, if my kids are still asleep. And then throughout the day, I'm always thought stopping, checking in with myself, seeing where my head is, and seeing if my thoughts are serving me or bringing me closer to my goals. Asking myself, what I'm really needing, what maybe this fear is, like what's trying to get my attention. I do a lot of tiny visualizations, so 1 to 3 minutes, even if I'm in my car, if I'm having a stressful time with my kids, if there's a lot of noise, like neurologically, that used to really be an issue for me, was light and sound sensitivity. So, getting outside in the morning for 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes I have to take my 4-year-old with me, and we play this game, like the five senses game. So something you see, something you hear, something you taste, something you feel. Um, and we both do that while having our feet in the grass. And winter's coming. This is my first time in Idaho, so I don't know how that's going to work when it starts snowing, but that's something.
Yeah.
And then what else do I do? Just like if I'm struggling, getting a cozy blanket, getting a cup of tea or coffee or whatever it is that you like, and like really feeling the warmth of the cup and feeling the warmth of the liquid in on my face, and um describing in my head like how it feels in my mouth, and like feeling the warmth go down my body, or if like there's one of your favorite foods or like nourishing foods, or even if it's not nourishing and it's comfort, like I'm all about balance. Doing that, listening to music, and then at night is usually when I will meditate. usually about 15 to 30 minutes. I'll do a meditation before bed, and then I try to end the night just thinking of like a quick positive thought and also what I was grateful for during that day, and just knowing that I can let go of anything that didn't go well that day and that tomorrow's a new day, and just giving myself grace and just being proud of myself. I think that's huge too, because I feel like I'm always wanting to do more or feeling like I didn't do enough. And so just naming off the things I'm proud of myself for, even if it's if when I was really sick, I couldn't even wash my own hair. I couldn't hold my arms up to wash my hair. So if you're in that position, if you get a shower in and that's all you've done all day, like celebrate that. And for me, I walked yesterday for like 45 minutes with my daughter. I pushed her in a stroller. She wanted to go for a walk. And so that was like a huge celebration for me and something that I've like wanted to be able to do for a long time, and now I can do it. So just celebrating ourselves and raising our frequencies, it can be like have such a huge impact, and just making one small change every day can really just start adding up to so much healing.
Yes, yes, yes. Daily disciplines. It's the small. We were talking about this offline, like people, ourselves included, we get into this mindset sometimes where we think it has to be this big thing that we're doing, and it's literally like the most amazing results come from the small little things that we do over and over and over again.
Yes.
Small. And that's for every part of life. Like that's for, I mean, literally any facet of life that you can think of. It's those little small things every day that compound.
Yes. And I think that the part of our brain that wants to think that we need to do everything is the part of our brain that's wanting us to stay safe and keep us from starting. So I would say just start. There isn't going to be a perfect day, there isn't going to be a perfect time in your life. Just start, do what you can, let go of the rest. Don't compare yourself to other people. You are doing the best that you can. And that was something that was huge. I just do the best that I can, and that's all I can do. And I let go of all of the rest.
Absolutely. Yes, that was a huge catalyst for me. Everything you were saying about kind of taking in the good and then celebrating yourself, as corny as it felt or seemed or was sometimes, it was where I started noticing the most profound results, because there was a period of time in my retraining that I totally let that kind of the pressure and perfectionism creep in, where I had to do it all perfect. It became another area of my life that I wasn't good enough or wasn't comparing or like living up to a certain standard I had created. And when I let that go, and when I literally do the same thing as you every night when I go to bed, I literally say, "Oh my God, great job, Chaz. You did this and this today. Yay, you're committed." I make sure that I always tell myself that love is a verb and a verb is an action. And then I recognize the actions that I took that day out of love. Even it doesn't matter how small they were. And I affirm to my brain that I'm committed to this, and I'm doing a good job.
I love that.
So I think that being proud of ourselves, allowing ourselves to be proud, is so powerful. We're so good at beating ourselves up, but we're not good at being genuinely proud.
Yeah, and taking a look at that. I mean, taking an inventory every morning when you wake up, write down the first 3 thoughts that you have and just notice, where is your brain going? Are you thinking, "Oh gosh, I didn't sleep well," or "Oh gosh, I'm not going to get what I need to get done today," or are you thinking about what you need to do next week? And I really had to take inventory of that and realize, like, am I loving myself? Am I practicing gratitude? Is what I'm doing serving me, or is it just creating a fight or flight mess in my body? And so then I would shift it. And so now when I wake up, I do the visualization. Sometimes I write down 3 positive thoughts or 3 things that are going well. I love how you asked me that in the very beginning of today, what's going well? And for a second, I was like, shoot, what's going well? And for me, it was a huge deal getting my daughter to eat something that I make for her without a huge fight. So I'm like, whoa, that actually went well today. Like, that's awesome. So just, getting happy about the small things.
Absolutely. We got to celebrate all the wins. And I also wanted to say that I love your use of oils. I use oils every day, but never in the way you just described. Like I diffuse them at night and I have some in the shower, eucalyptus, just because, it keeps your sinuses clear and it just is kind of refreshing and rejuvenating. But I really love how you are taking oils and using them as aromatherapy with the visualization to then later on use that scent to bring you back to that visualization or the feelings attached to that visualization. That is so powerful, and I cannot wait to try that.
It's really awesome. There's actually a lot of studies done in like neurolinguistic programming at like Dartmouth, I think. And so it's like a real, scientific process, but it has helped me so much. I actually have started doing free classes every month. So in September, I did a free class on emotional release and I taught how to use oils to release emotions. And then last month, I did a limbic system retraining class and I showed how I use oils through limbic system retraining. So if people want, they can connect with me that way. I don't know if you'll put my Instagram. Is there a handle or something that you type
Oh,
or?
absolutely. Yeah, I'll put anything that you want me to.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I just started doing the free classes. I just thought it would be helpful for, people that are interested or just getting started, or even people that have been retraining for a while that just are maybe looking for some new tools. I always like hearing what other people are doing as long as it's not super rigid with rules. I just like, the small tools here and there can be super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, like somebody, I really love Lindsay Mitchell, the founder of Vital Side.
I love
I
her.
really love something. I know, me too. I love something she taught me, that to like think of how to make your brain retraining fit in your life rather than having to plan your whole life around your brain retraining. And I'm not saying, I think that some of us, and maybe because how sick you were at the beginning, you could be a testament that sometimes at the beginning, your whole life kind of is
Yeah.
the healing initially. But when we start getting our life back and getting independence again, and we start having the stamina and the energy to go out and say yes to like life, it feels to me really good to know that I can start saying yes to life and bring my retraining into my life rather than planning my life around my retraining.
Saying yes to life is retraining. And that's another huge point
Yes.
is I don't think waiting until you are fully well to go live your life is serving you. Like, that's what I thought, like, I needed to be better to start certain things, and it wasn't true. I just started doing what
Yeah.
I could, and even if I couldn't do it for a long time, if it meant literally walking 2 houses outside of my front yard instead of waiting until I could walk the block or, I came from walking 4 miles a day, so in my mind, I wanted to be able to walk 4 miles a day again, but if I could even walk one driveway outside and just get a little fresh air and maybe sit on my porch, I started doing small things like that. I started going for drives. My husband would, come home after work and I had been in bed all day. And I was like, I need to get out of here. And he would carry me down the stairs because I was that bad. My legs were so weak. And we would go for drives. And I didn't want to wait until I was able, to get myself out and just doing just small things. And it really just helped getting out of your bed and out of your room and out of your house if you're that sick. If you have someone, thankfully, I had someone who could help me. But I was alone for the most part every day until he got home. but just doing small things like just, standing outside for literally 1 minute if that's all you can do. Just don't wait until
Yeah.
you want your life fully back to start living, in the moment of what you have going on right now.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, that's all incremental training,
Yes.
how you said just going out, that's that piece, that really integral piece of that incrementally training early on. And then I think how you said, I mean, I know that I fell into that trap of very limiting beliefs of, oh, I'm not healed enough. Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
healed enough. And even this podcast, which I wanted to do for so long, and it was, no, I'm not healed enough. I thought I can't do that till I'm 100% healed. Well, I'm not 100% yet, and I'm doing it because I
Yes.
can do it. I can. I don't need to be 100% to do this, I need to make sure that I stay, like that I'm doing what I can handle, that I'm having the conversations that are okay for my brain. But otherwise, I feel like this actually saying yes to myself, saying yes to this idea, I think has actually been a huge catalyst in helping me heal.
Same for me, even with the classes that I'm doing, if I say I'm 80% healed, and if I had to live the rest of my life like this, I could, and I could be grateful. Um, but there was a thought in my head of like, oh, well, I should be 100% healed. I shouldn't have any pain. I shouldn't have any symptoms. I should be able to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it before I start teaching other people. But that's not the case because um, I'm living my life. I'm no longer stuck in bed. I am no longer in a wheelchair and dependent on other people to help me take showers. So why wouldn't I share, how far I've come and what I've learned, and even if it helps a few people, then it's worth it. So absolutely saying yes to yourself is a huge step in the right direction.
Yes, I agree. Hey, and I want to go back just a moment to something that we talked about a little before, just because I feel like there might be some people listening who could be a little confused or say, oh, well, what does that mean? We were talking about how 1 day a week you do emotional release work. And I feel like maybe somebody out there is saying, hey, well, what's emotional release work? What's that look like? What do you do for that? So could you briefly explain to anyone listening what that entails?
Yeah, sure. And like I said, I'm doing the free classes, so if you want to get a more detailed description or and follow along, you can always do that. But I basically will think about a time in my life. First of all, there's a book, Healing Emotions Using Essential Oils, that I use a lot. And so if I'm feeling a specific emotion, I'll use the book and I link it with the oil that the book recommends. And I will use the affirmations associated where you put the oil on and it's linked to a certain organ where that emotion is typically stored, and then you use the affirmations. Um, that's one way that I do it. And then also aroma freedom technique where you focus on a strong emotion that you're having, and then you go back to a memory of maybe your childhood or maybe at work. Whatever it is, maybe you're not feeling good enough, or you've been feeling like you're in a victim role, or you're anxious, or whatever it is, and you go back to that time in your life where you feel like it started. And it's like a thing where you do a few rounds, and then you go to a visualization where you kind of change the memory. So if anybody's done EMDR or faster EFT, it can be in the same realm or idea of that type of work. So then you change the perspective on it, and it helps you to let go, and also for your body not to respond in such a strong way to those thoughts. And um, I usually will do a visualization to shift my mind. So I'll go back to the thought, I'll change the perspective. Then I go to a visualization where I'm feeling really strong and powerful. One that I really like to do is where I'm just standing on a big mountain, and um, the sun is shining and I feel the sun on my skin. and I'm taking deep breaths and the air is fresh and I describe what I'm smelling and I'm feeling so just powerful because I've climbed this mountain and I'm looking out into nature and like the wonders of the world kind of thing. And it just gives me like a calming feeling. And so I'm able to kind of
Mm.
release that emotion. And so there's like three different ways that I do it, just depending on how I'm feeling, what I'm trying to release. But that's just the gist of it. Is kind of trying to help your desensitize your nervous system to that emotion or thought or trauma that you may have had in your past. And I don't ever suggest jumping into a major trauma by yourself without finding your safe place and knowing you can get to that safe place in your mind because that can trigger you know symptoms and a negative reaction. So um, I always suggest starting really really slow and maybe working with one emotion at a time before going to a trauma. But yeah, that's basically what I do. And like I said, in my classes, I'll explain it and walk you through it so you can actually do it. And I send out samples of the essential oils if people don't have them already. I use Young Living. They're therapeutic grade. And so it's really important you're using high quality oils. But so if someone, doesn't have oils, then they can always get samples from my classes too.
That's awesome. So, are your classes a certain day or a certain week every month, or does it vary month to month?
It varies, and I've just been announcing on Instagram, when they are, and I have been recording them, so because I have people in Europe that wanna join, and so the time change is huge, and so I'll record them so people can always go back, rewatch, if they're not able to make it on the at the live recording, then there's always that option, and I've been doing on them on Zoom, and I also do it on Facebook. I created a Facebook group because I had so many people who wanted to do it, but I didn't have the account on Zoom where you can have like 100 people or more. So then I created a Facebook group, and so one of my classes are also recorded there, and I plan on sharing brain retraining tips and emotional release tips and stuff there. So that can just be another recess or a resource, and it will be somewhere where it can be pretty safe for brain retraining because we're not talking about symptoms, um, in the posts. So that's another resource if people are interested.
What is the Facebook group
Um,
called?
it's called, oh my gosh, hold on one second. I just made it last month.
And you can also message it to me and I'll put it in the show notes. Either way for people.
It's empowered healing from within. And so they just have to, um, request to join the group and then I'll just let them in. I'm not sure if they need to be my friend. Some people were saying they weren't able to join without being my friend. So I don't know if that's like a special feature, but um
Hmm. No, it
I-
shouldn't be.
yeah, I don't know. Right now there's 150 people in there. So um yeah, I just wanted to create a resource where people can find information and didn't have to spend money to do it because everything is so expensive.
So expensive. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll drop that in the show notes and your Instagram handle so people can connect with you and stay up to date on your next class. And I guess you've shared so many wonderful, pieces of advice and wisdom and thoughts. But if you had to, sum it up, or even if there was just anything that we haven't talked about yet that you feel is a really important message for anyone listening, what would it be? What would you share?
um just to not give up on yourself and to utilize what you have available to you. Um, I would say to try not to get too wrapped up in what other people are doing or feeling like you need to do so many things to heal because that can kind of trap us and um, keep us in fight or flight. So, and just knowing that you don't need to make the perfect decision or figure out your life today. Like you have time. As much as I didn't want to suffer anymore, just knowing that I was going to be able to figure it out and there was going to be an answer for me specifically, and believing in myself was huge, and trying to find other people that are supportive, that understand, can be really helpful as well. If you don't have anybody close to you in your life, I kind of had to do that for me. Like my friends didn't understand. I did have my husband, but he was working, he was busy. He couldn't be there for me all the time. So just finding a few people, if you can, that lift you up. You're not talking about symptoms with all the time, because that's not helpful. Um, just stuff like that. And just like we were talking, I would just really say doing small things, whatever you can do, taking a bath, getting outside, standing for a minute, watching a comedy, doing anything that's comforting to you, thinking about happy memories or things that you are excited to do in your future. Just simple little steps in the right direction can just create so much healing. So I would say just start where you are and just try to surrender to the moment and know that it can and will get better.
Yeah, surrender is huge in healing. Is there any final thoughts, any questions that you have, or anything else before I move on? Let you go?
I just hope that we were able to share hope with people today, because I feel like that's what I was lacking. Hope. And I know that hearing from other people who had been in a similar state as me, who had healed, was like such a saving grace for me. Especially when there can be so, horrifying or just negative stories out there, that we can get wrapped up in. But just believing that if someone else is able to heal, that I was able to as well. So that's just kind of the message I've really wanted to get across to people, is that there is hope and that they can heal.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. No one is too special. And like you said, no one is too far gone or too sick. Everyone, like you thought you couldn't heal because you were too sick, but here
Exactly.
you are.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing hope with people who are listening. I really believe that is exactly what you did accomplish today.
Good. You're so welcome.
Yay, that's a wrap. Thanks again, once again, for always being on this journey with me. If you have a healing story that you would love to share on this podcast and you think would also inspire other healers on their journey, I welcome you. Please check the links in the show notes to reach out with me and let's connect. Remember the weekly challenge to change something up in your routine and make it fun, make it laughable, enjoy it. Have a very happy holiday, Merry Christmas every day. Make every day a merry day. And until next time, make this whole week great.